From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm the founder, CEO, and Chief Technologist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have Mr. Neal Foard with me, and we're going to talk all about storytelling. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by All-in-One WP Migration, the most trusted WordPress migration plugin with over 60 million sites served. Whether you are switching hosts, changing domains, or moving to a new server, All-in-One WP Migration makes it one click. Try it for free at WordPress.org or visit servemass.com for pro features. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here, and today I have my guest all the way from California, Mr. Neal Foard. Hey Neal, how you doing today?
Hey, nice to be here with you, Rob.
I'm glad you're here. And I think I told you this when we met a couple weeks ago. You certainly have a voice for podcasting and radio. So there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, let's make the most of it today.
Yeah, I hear you. How did you get into all this wonderful world of storytelling? Like what brought you down the path? What's your background and kind of how'd you get there?
Yeah. So it's funny, there's no major in it. I suppose you could go take drama, but I was a business student, and I wound up in the career of advertising. And what I discovered as a young creative person who was trying to, make a career as a copywriter is that people often don't know a good idea when they hear it. Like if we all knew what a great idea was just by listening to it, we would never make mistakes about things like what movies to see or what shows to attend. But people just don't know until you have painted them such a vivid picture that they get it. So in places like Hollywood or in front of boards of investors, it's particularly true. You go in front of something like Shark Tank. If you do not make a compelling case for your product, then the four of them will sit there and tell you you're an idiot. And by the way, I take enormous pleasure in the number of times that the sharks have said, that's a stupid idea. And then that company goes on to be $1 billion valuation,
Ring being the biggest one that I remember. Right.
Okay. So in other words, it really is important how you frame something in order for people to appreciate it as an idea. And so when I was in advertising, as a young creative person pitching ideas for commercials, I discovered in the room with the other creatives, holy crap, that's a way better idea than mine. I have to put more oomph behind this. I've got to get them excited about it. And you also discover that when people take in information, they do not remember bullet points. They don't remember the logic or the rationale or the talking points that you said. They're just talking points. Nobody walks away with them internalized as emotional memories, as opposed to when you paint them a picture from a story, they do remember it, they can repeat it, and they can even give you the moral of it. And the example that I always use is, you haven't heard, Robert, probably the story of the tortoise and the hare in 20 years. And yet you can spit that story back at me right now with very high fidelity, and you can give me the moral. Now, how that alone as the example should be sufficient for people to go, wait, hang on. Yeah, I see the point. The reason that we're like this is human beings are hardwired with stories as the operating system of how we take in, store, and regurgitate memories. And a story is usually attached to an emotion. And human beings make their decisions off of their emotions. Do they like the idea? Do they like you? Do they trust you? And when you can communicate effectively in stories, when you are interesting to listen to, then they can, most likely they'll give your idea the best possible courtroom, appearance. So
it's funny.
That's how I made my career, was on.
It's
Go
funny
ahead.
when
Sorry.
you talk about it's okay. It's funny when you talk about the tortoise and the hare, and I was kind of listening to you in depth, and you were saying we all remember that, and my mind immediately turned to the franchise called McDonald's really quickly. We all remember as a kid growing up, and you and I are probably similar ages, I would think, but that's okay. We won't go there in that
Yeah.
conversation.
Let's not.
And let's not. But I remember as a kid growing up, the McDonald's characters and the story they told about buying a
Yeah.
hamburger. And I was, you know where I'm going, right? And
I know exactly. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember that vividly. And I can remember arguing, you know, about my parents buying us. We didn't want the chocolate chip cookies. We wanted the character cookies. And then I'd argue with my three brothers about how I had to trade you two grimaces for three hamburgers and, and so on. There's
Yeah.
the story. And we remember those all the time.
Yeah.
One of my favorite commercials in Canada, and you wouldn't have seen it, but I can, after we do the record, I'll gladly send it to you, is a story called Albert. He's a kid who's playing in a hockey game, and he gets to the Stanley Cup Finals, Game 7, and he scores the winning goal in overtime. And the company was Canadian Tire. Canadian Tire is a Canadian houseware hardware company, national, dating back 100 years. So this story caught on so much that every time a team in Canada went into overtime in the 80s, the fans would start cheering Albert, Albert, Albert. And a friend of mine was with me from Detroit, and he said, Rob, what the hell's that about? There's no Albert on the ice. And I had to explain the
Mm.
whole story of Albert. And it's since been immortalized in a YouTube video. So that's a really good example of a story that really caught on and went viral, right?
Yeah. When you were talking about the little cookies with faces on them
Yeah.
and characters and
Yeah.
so forth, that's a
Yeah.
really good example of why do collectibles exist? Why would
Yeah.
anybody take a simple card? Okay, so this little card here is worth less than a single penny,
Yeah.
and yet, if you put a baseball player's image on this and the stats and so forth, it can become literally priceless. And the same thing about jerseys. If you buy a jersey for the Canucks right now, I suppose
Yeah.
it'll run you maybe 250. Um, but if it's the actual game worn jersey
Yep.
by, in a Stanley Cup final, all of a sudden it attaches to a story. It
Yep.
attaches to there is a legend behind that thing, and now it
Yep.
becomes worth thousands of dollars. Well, this is the same way in anytime you're pitching an idea, if you can attach it to a story and to an emotion, whatever it is you're there to sell becomes more valuable. When you think about diamonds, a diamond is a rock with a story.
Yep.
And it's just you're never going to use it. No woman with a diamond ring is ever going to use it. They don't cut glass with it. They don't put it on the end of a record player phonograph
Yep.
thing. No, it's a story, and the story is about what this means. The value attached to it is all the backstory of who gave me this and what was the occasion. Almost every woman on earth who has been proposed to can tell you the exact circumstances of that proposal.
Yep.
And because of that, the ring, actually, the rock becomes the memento. It becomes the trigger for remembering that event.
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
symbol. So in the case of business, in the case of any sort of thing where you're trying to persuade someone, we've got to stop thinking that people are going to be persuaded by logic. Human beings are logic resistant. This is
Mhm.
why political divisions are never solved by, somebody saying, well, let me just point out the 5 reasons you're wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, good luck with that. No, no, no. It has to be attached to a story that will help somebody frame what you're telling them in such a way that they're open to it. They're open to being persuaded. Nobody was ever persuaded that didn't want to be persuaded.
Yep.
Actually, ironically, that's how hypnosis works. Hypnosis is just self-delusion. It's hypnosis. And despite the fact that hypnosis has this reputation of being some Svengali puts you in their thrall, no, brother, that's not how it happens at all. It's
Yeah, it's true.
you wanting to do something so bad, you need permission to do it. And
Yeah.
then, like, even people that want to quit smoking they have to frame it in such a way
Yeah.
that they can overcome their body's physiological
Yeah.
craving for nicotine.
100%.
You have to
Yeah.
detach it from why that's meaningful. Now, I'll give you an example from hypnosis of a case that I saw. I became a certified hypnotherapist in New York State because I thought it would be useful for advertising. We can go off on that for another minute. But in the meantime, this was something that I saw firsthand. A woman came in and she wanted to quit smoking. The hypnotist, in a relaxed state, I wouldn't call it she was deep under, but she was in a hypnotic trance of sorts.
Mhm.
And what the hypnotist would do is he says, I want you to go back and I want you to remember the very, very first time you ever touched a cigarette. And so she recalls that she was in her father's lap. He had a pack of cigarettes in his pocket, and she pulled out one of the cigarettes from the pack. And he laughed and laughed. And then he said, that you're too young to smoke. And so what they were actually able to do was attach the fact that, oh, every time she pulls out a cigarette, she has this very pleasant memory of being in her father's her lap, and
Yeah.
then him laughing. And she loved her father.
Yeah.
And then when he said, you're too young, now she attaches to that cigarette the fact that it makes her feel grown up.
Yeah.
It makes her feel sort of strangely
Yeah.
independent. So the hypnotist was able to say, do you love your father? I love my father very much. What killed your father? Smoking killed my father. He died of emphysema. Oh, so cigarettes stole your father from you.
Yeah.
Cigarettes killed your father, who you love very much. Oh, so when you pick up a cigarette, I just want you to remember what cigarettes did to your father. And by the way, you know, you don't need, if he were here right now, you were the grown up, what would he tell you to do?
Yeah.
Oh, he would tell you to quit. Oh, so if your father were here right now, he would tell you, I love you and I need you to stop smoking. Okay, now what has happened is she comes out of that. She's gone very much closer towards not smoking because it's completely different. It symbolizes something completely different. And it was done under circumstances where she was listening. She was
Mhm.
not trying to fight it. She was she was reliving the memories of her father attached to cigarettes. So in that reframing, it's the story, man. I could tell you all day long cigarettes will kill you, and it won't change a
Yeah.
thing. I have to attach it to where it came from and what your father, and now knowing that it was your father's affection and his amusement with you that
Mhm.
did it. Now let's have him come in and say, don't do that anymore.
Yeah. I
Well,
get
that's
that.
that's the same way you are about anything that we are either going to buy or not buy. You have to really want to buy it in order to justify most of the time the price. And you're telling yourself a story like, why should I buy this pickup truck that's 80,000 US dollars? Because it'll make me feel like this and this and this. And it will. Yeah, it's all a story. It's not because the functionality is worth that kind
No,
of money.
it's so true. And I think, cars is a really good example. Why do middle-aged men go out and buy sports cars? Like, I'm
Right.
serious. And
Well,
and we're
yeah.
going and we're going through that right now where Tiz is looking for a new car. She drives a Volkswagen Jetta, 2016. And she's like, I think I want another Jetta. And I'm like, why? Why do you want another Jetta? Oh, I like the Jetta. But it's all the story. She remembers what she did in the Jetta, Bob, all of that.
Yeah.
And I think there's better vehicles out there, but anyway, that's that story. And it's
When it
funny.
comes to, you can take, I could, the advertising task of an agency
Yeah.
is to represent a product in such a way that it becomes greater than the sum of its parts, where all of
Yes.
a sudden it's more than just the nuts and bolts and the functionality. And I remember listening to a guy, he was talking about the Toyota Corolla, and he was saying, the Corolla sort of through history has been the unsexy car. It was this
Yeah.
bland shoe of a vehicle. They're gorgeous now. But anyway, and he said, I can even take that shoe of a car, and for a young man in his early 20s, I can actually turn that into a vehicle of sex appeal. And I'm like, I'm all ears, brother. How would you do that?
Yeah, I'm sure.
And he says, let me give you how it works. What young women are looking for in men is they want excitement, and they want,
Yes.
they want somebody who they are attracted to because they think they're going places. How would a Corolla possibly signal that? He goes, like this. When you see a young man, if I can persuade, not the men, if I can persuade the young women that when you see a guy driving a Corolla, that's a guy with a plan. That is a young man with a 5-year plan to become a millionaire, because
Yep.
nobody ever became a millionaire by spending like a millionaire. They
That
became a
is true.
millionaire by with a plan. And when you see somebody who's bought a Corolla, you see somebody who has bought a car they're not going to have to spend another nickel on,
Yeah.
in maintenance. Well, actually, you know what I mean. It's regular
Exactly.
maintenance, but the car will last 500,000 miles. So he's
Yep.
saving his money for his startup. He's saving his money, so that he's got money to spend on you. And all of a sudden, I start to see his logic going, oh, yeah, you're not even talking to the guy. You're not actually talking to the buyer. You're talking to what the buyer wants.
Yep.
And
So
and
true.
if you can persuade them, then all of a sudden the young men go, hang on. So what you're telling me is women are going to perceive that I'm going to go places, just not right now. And
Yeah.
then they start to go, oh yeah, I get it. I get it. And in listening to that, that was one of those cases where you go, wow, first of all, A, why did Toyota never run that commercial? And then B, you could take almost any product and frame it in a way that it becomes attractive.
Yep. I agree. Last night we were watching a hockey game. You were asking me before we went to air what was going on with hockey. So I was watching a game out of Edmonton. And I'm an awful marketer. I was watching ads between commercials. Now, except for live sports and a few other things, I generally scream everything. So the days of
Yeah.
commercials don't exist for me.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at these ads saying, that sucks. That sucks.
Yeah.
And my friend sitting
Yeah.
beside me, do you like that ad, Rob? Nah, I don't. And then suddenly one hit me. And I said, I really like that. And it's how they presented it. And she said, I agree with it. And it's the same thing there. It's storytelling. And big events are worse. So I'll watch the Olympics and I might find 3 ads that resonate with me because they tug on my emotion. They hit
Yeah.
something that I can relate to, relationship. Or one of the things you talk about is being kind in your storytelling. And I agree, like coming across as a big bully all the time doesn't help you generate revenue for your brand.
Yeah. There is a sort of fashion with some brands of like the way I've heard this lately is it
Yeah.
was expressed by Nike at the Boston Marathon. They put up ads that said
Yeah.
runners
Yeah.
wanted, walkers tolerated. And I thought, whoever is in charge over there right now is not the same person that was in charge 10 years ago, because
No.
they wouldn't have dreamt of insulting the athletes, you know, in an event and creating a pecking order where, they're saying anything less than the champion is a douche. It's like, oh wow, you're an ass. I
Yeah, I
hate
saw
you.
that.
I will
Yeah.
never buy another Nike product from now on because I've got lots of choices here, mate. And you know what I
Yeah.
don't appreciate is the fact that you're denigrating people who try.
Yeah.
And I got nothing for you but a big middle finger. And there are other places to go. So congratulations. You just alienated a lifelong Nike buyer, and I'm never coming back.
Yeah.
Congratulations. This is why I think kindness, people don't realize that customers vote with their money.
Yes.
And when you become an ass, you just lost my vote. It's a little
Yes.
bit like a politician who, you find out that they're just a catastrophic liar. You go, well, that's it. You're never going to recover.
Yeah.
You're never coming back. And um, when you think about the ones that affected you in that, the ones that you actually took note of, yeah, I'm going to guess that there was a certain level of appreciation they had for the customer. That is,
No,
they
there
demonstrate
was.
they like you.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was. And by the way, if anybody wants to learn more about Nike and that whole story, the best book out there is Shoe Dog by far and far and far by Bob Knight. It tells the story of how he founded it and where that company went. But I agree the company's changed. And it's interesting. The CEO, and I forget her name off the top, but that was turned down for the Nike job, just took the CEO job at Lululemon, interestingly
Uh,
enough. So and they're a Canadian company and they've gone through some trials, but
I didn't know
and
Lululemon was Canadian. That's wonderful. All right.
they sure are. And to add to it even more, fashion companies while we're there, they play on people's
Oh boy,
storytelling and brand.
do they ever?
My partner is a plus size lady. I'll tell you that now. I have no shame in that. She has no shame in that. And the biggest problem with that market is for years, except for the Lane Bryants and a few other companies, they've played this. Oh, if you're a bigger girl, you like to wear maternity wear. And frankly, it sucks for them. I'll say that. It really
Mm,
does. And some of the brands, and Walmart gets it to some degree in Canada because they're actually importing Lane Bryant stuff into their collection in Canada as of a
mm,
couple of months ago. They're starting to tell the story and say, you can look gorgeous if you and do this, this, and this if you buy this, this, and this. And it's
mm,
working. And there's a good example. The other example that comes to mind right away is hospitality companies. How many times have
mm,
you turned on the TV and said, there's a cruise ad showing Antigua, or there's a resort showing you Wyndham, or there's a location somewhere else where you can go? And they're telling the stories so that you buy into that product. Beer and wine companies have done that for years and
yeah,
played
yeah,
that game.
yeah. It's
So,
funny. I knew when I was working in Hong Kong, I got to be
yeah,
friends with the head of Heineken out there, and
okay.
he was this Dutchman. He was this sort of stern Dutchman, and he used to say to me, he goes, if you could be anywhere, I can't do a Dutch accent, so you'll forgive me. He
It's
goes, if you
okay.
could be anywhere on earth right now doing anything, what would you be doing? And I said, I think it'd be snowboarding. He goes, excellent. So you're snowboarding. So it's a wonderful, beautiful day. You're snowboarding. And then at the end of the day, what do you want to go do? I go have a beer. And he goes, yes, yes, you want to go have a beer afterwards. It's a kind of a celebration. It's a place to enjoy remembering the day. Oh, let's take something else. What else do you like to do? Oh, I like to play tennis. Okay, so you spend all day playing tennis, and then what do you do afterwards? You go have a beer. Yes, you go have a beer. And every time he was describing the occasions for beer, it was for one of two things. One, either you were remembering something, you wanted to kind of run through the memory of something very pleasant,
Yep.
relive it, celebrate it, or two, you wanted to just be in the company of friends. And he said, here is the sad fact about being a man, because there's only two occasions when it's okay to hug somebody. One is when you've just scored a goal or there was some kind of athletic thing
Yep.
that you all triumph together. And then it's spontaneous. Nobody actually asks anybody for a hug. You just can't help yourself. Like it just happens. You see on the ice, these are some of the most ferocious people on earth, rugby players and hockey players. And yet they spontaneously embrace one another after a goal. He goes, the other time is when you're bombed,
Yeah.
when you
And and
have to,
and by and by the way, I played both rugby and hockey, and rugby's really interesting because you know what the tradition is? You
the,
clap your opposition off the
yeah,
field, and then what do you do when you play club rugby? You go have a
go have a
beer.
beer.
That's
You
what we
go have
used
a
to do.
beer.
Can
There's
remember.
something perverse about hockey and rugby is how civilized they are. You've just spent the entire three periods or the four quarters you trying to beat the living shit out of each other, only to then go and have a beer with people and become fast friends. It's the weirdest psychology.
It so is. I can remember playing where I grew up outside of Toronto, Markham. I played club rugby while I was in college, and we had a game where there was literally three ejections and four fights in a game, in a rugby game.
Oh crap.
And it was our home game. And Markham has an old English pub called the Duchess of Markham that dates back to the turn of the century. One of my favorite places. And who am I sitting at the table with? I'm buying a beer for the guy that I beat the you know what out of in the fight 3 hours before. And somebody said, "How you can do that?" And I said, "The game's over."
Yeah,
Like
but
also,
there is something going, like American baseball
yep,
lately is just everybody's throwing at each other's heads now, and there's a dust up every other game. It feels like
yep,
guys
yep,
are getting
yep.
hit, and I'm just going, you people have no. It's not meant to be a violent sport, and yet I guarantee you they're probably not going and having a beer with each other after that game. There's
Yeah,
that
sure.
grudge. That grudge is going to last all season.
So
And
true.
so
Uh,
please explain to me the psychology of why it's possible in rugby and
I know.
hockey too. Because I
It's
played,
a mentality difference, Neil.
I wish we could figure that out. There's a story
I don't
there,
know.
I'm sure. I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah,
I'm going to do a story on that because
I
that seems
I
like a
love
really
that.
interesting subject.
You see what comes out of a podcast, folks.
Yeah.
You heard it here. But one of the things you touched on earlier in this episode was you were sort of explaining about collectibles in the story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught my expression. I was sitting there nodding at you because what is my hobby? Collectibles. What is it? Sports collectibles, particular hockey, but sometimes other stuff. And everybody says to me, why do you have that puck that's got that signature on it? Or why do you have, and I said, it's not about the puck. It's not about the signature. It's about the day I was in a late arena and the late great Hall of Famer number 16 from Montreal, Henri Richard, in the middle of an autograph signing, took his Stanley Cup ring off his finger and put it in my hand. That's what
Wow.
it's about.
Cool.
Story. The ring, by the way, was the ring that he got in 1960 when Montreal won their fifth Stanley Cup in a row that I had in my hand. And I was telling somebody this story and said, "You've done multiple book signings." I said, "Yeah," and it's always the story. It was the story watching Alex Ovechkin be nice to a young boy who was getting shoved in the line. It was the story of another great player that was explaining stuff and holding court. It was the time I took my son to a signing, and there was an Xbox machine with NHL 20,000 and whatever running, the big NHL 2K franchise. And Doug Gilmore, retired Toronto Maple Leafs, plucked four kids out of the line and put the pen down and went and played Xbox hockey with these kids. Things like that. That's why I'm in this hobby. It's not the signature on the book or the piece of paper or the jersey. It's the story behind it.
Yeah. You know, uh, if you trace why Vincent van Gogh
Yeah.
is considered one of the greats, he was sort of living in obscurity, died in obscurity. He'd really only ever sold paintings to his brother, and he didn't really sell them to his brother. His brother was just giving him a monthly stipend so that he could
Yeah.
continue to paint. And what people don't know about Van Gogh is that after he died, his brother died only about 3 or 4 months later, and
Wow.
he left Theo Van Gogh von Gogh. Theo left his widow Joanna van Gogh virtually penniless, and all she had in her possession was about 200 canvases and about 500 letters between her brother and Vincent. Now, originally, she tried to sell all of these paintings, and they wanted to buy them in bulk for like, $20 or something. They wanted the canvases. And she just felt like the works, because she'd read all these letters, she really felt like the paintings had merit, because
Yeah.
certainly Theo was a believer. He thought they were amazing. So she tries and tries, can't sell them, puts up a couple of exhibitions, still can't sell them. Then she invents, in one day, she invents the modern exhibition, because she displayed the canvases with the letters. So every canvas that went up, there was a story behind it,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
understood what it was about and what led to it. And they began to appreciate the tormented life of Vincent van Gogh, and they were buying the story.
Yeah.
And it was a runaway train. She
Yeah.
basically invented the modern exhibition where it wasn't enough to see the art. You needed to know the background. Like,
Yep.
why is this significant? What made it important? So Johanna van Gogh she is the originator of the sort of modern gallery experience where, you need to know about de Kooning and why are the splatter paintings of who am I thinking of? The guy that did all those splatter paintings back in the 60s and 50s. Oh my God, he's world famous. Anyway, it wasn't because the painting itself had the merit of, oh, well, that's a brilliant idea. It's like what I was saying before. Most people don't know a brilliant idea when it's staring them in the face.
So true. The biggest industry, I think, the storytelling is the music industry. Honestly, we have a couple performers that I have one. She's Canadian that I go see all the time, every year. And people say, "But you've seen her before." Yeah. So what? It's the connection. It's the story. It's the story with my partner. It's the story about when we went to see her the first time. The first time we went and saw this performer, she came by name of Jan Arden. I picked up my divorce papers from my failed marriage the day we went to the first show. Now my partner knew I was legally separated when we started dating, and I wasn't going back. Picked up my divorce papers that day. We've been to see her. This year will be the 6th and 7th, or the 7th and 8th time that we've been to see this lady. And people say, why do you keep going?
Help me out with this. Comedians and musicians have a very different way that they have to approach their audiences. So, for example, when you go to see a musician, you want to hear the hits. When you go to see a stand-up comedian, I need to hear all new material.
Yeah,
and so,
she does both. She does both.
Oh, does she?
So she's a musician, but she's known for her comedy, and she tells stories in between her songs. Every song's got a story. So, for example, her parents, and all her fans know this, suffered from dementia. And both died from dementia. And she tells the story about on her property how she had to build a parents' house with locks on it so the parents couldn't get out the door.
Oh my God! So she's virtually imprisoned them. Oh my God!
And she had to, though, because dementia people wander.
Right.
And she actually wrote a book called Feed My Mother, and it talked all about the dementia road with her mom. So she's not only is she a musician, but she's connecting because that is her goal, right? And then she does a podcast as well, a well-rated podcast. And then she's done, a couple of years ago, she did a tour with the famous Canadian comedian Rick Mercer, if you know who he is, and they did a tour together, and it wasn't even about the music; it was all comedy. It was ridiculous.
So,
but that's what I'm. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I have a story to tell you about the nature of performance, and then I had Gary Shandling was a very famous comedian, and he had television shows and so forth. And George Wallace was what they call a journeyman. He was a guy, he does a lot of Vegas, black fella. And he was the kind of guy that was a road dog in the 70s. And then in the 80s, he sort of broke out, but he never got huge. He never got like stadium big. Yeah. But he was funny, and I used to love to see him. Well, I live close enough to a place called the Comedy and Magic Club in Hermosa Beach, California, where I used to be a regular. And part of the deal was when I was going back in the late 80s, you could get a steak dinner and a beer for $5. And so I wish. Right. So I used to go in there on Friday nights, really just for the steak dinner. But the bartender was so cool that when they closed the restaurant and everybody went into the show, I didn't have a ticket, but he would let me watch the acts on the closed circuit with him in the bar.
Oh yeah.
So he was a really super good, cool dude. Well, he would recommend to me, he goes, listen, do yourself a favor, milk that, don't drink that beer right off the bat. Okay. Milk it so that you can stay, because you're going to want to see how the comedians change their act from the first show to the next show. Some people come in and it is note for note, it's the same act. They just have it memorized and it's down. And other comedians are listening and paying attention, and they're reading the room, and they want to see, maybe this will land if I do it differently. And then sometimes they have to go off on hecklers and so on. So you're going to want to stay for both shows to become a student of
Yeah.
this. Well, one night on the 8 o'clock show, um, uh, Gary Shandling gets up there, and he's not the headliner. He showed up one night,
Okay.
and he wants to do 15 minutes. Okay, so he gets up there and he does 15 minutes, and then he does 20, and then 30, and now he's up there for 40 minutes. And which
Uh-oh.
is this is very rude to a headliner to go up there and milk your appearance. So what happens is George Wallace appears behind Shandling from behind the curtain, but silently, and he starts to mimic Shandling and spoof him, and
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, after about a minute of this, the jokes are falling wrong. That is, the punchline's landing and it's funny, but then there'll be like an echo laugh or some other kind of weird
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
audience responding. And then Shandling starts to follow their eye line, and he realizes there's somebody behind him. And now he's busted George Wallace behind him. Now, instead of leaving the stage, the two of them then did 40 minutes together.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was fucking hysterical. Now, I was so impressed, because it was really good. Like their little play and playing off each other and busting each other's chops and so forth. It was
Yeah.
really good. It was really tight. And then Shandling leaves and Wallace does another 5 minutes and says goodnight. And I'm just like, that is blowing my mind. And the bartender says, "You're going to want to stay for the next one." Rob, it was note for note the exact same thing. They had practiced that. It was
Oh,
not
wow.
spontaneous. It was a rehearsed bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my God, they really fooled me. They fooled everybody. We were all completely fooled." Now, having seen that and lived through that, my respect for those guys went 10 times, 10x
I'm
what it
sure.
had
I'm
before.
certain.
And so anytime George Wallace would appear anywhere, I wanted to go see it because I knew that anything that happened that was spontaneous was no, no, no. You think this guy does Vegas because he's an amateur? This
Yeah.
guy's he's a
A pro.
machine. He's a pro. And
Musicians do a lot of that when they do like 4 and 5 stops in one venue. Very
yeah,
often, you don't
yeah,
want to go see multiple shows. And because what I always do when I go see concerts is I pull up the playlist and say, okay, what are they going to play tonight? And it's usually a variety. But the artists I really like are the ones that have songs that the audience picks out. And then that's a lot of spontaneity goes around that. Or when they drag somebody up on stage that's not playing. So I give you an example. Bruce Springsteen, and when he did Born in the USA, he always dragged somebody on
right.
up on stage for Dancing in the Dark. You know that
Right.
person was a plant, right? You do know that.
Sure. Well, yeah, because one
But
of them went on to be on Friends. Yeah.
and one of them who was in his video was Patty Scaffey, who became his wife later on,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So
You're right.
yeah,
Right.
right. But one of the things I like, and I'll go back to our friend Jan Arden, she's a comedian. She'll find somebody to pick fun of in the first or second row. And inadvertently, that person almost always ends up on a stool for a song next to her. And it's not a friend of the show. It's not,
Oh,
she's
it
talked
really
to,
is somebody. She's really just
yeah,
gotten a stranger up there.
she
That's amazing.
just, because she likes to do it, because she has that loyalty and connection to her fan base, and it makes it different. And she likes to do it, and she's talked about this, but the music industry is really big on storytelling. It's
You
it's
know,
incredible.
Rob, you're making me think of something. I
Sure,
saw,
please share.
uh, I saw, geez, what is the name of this guy? He was in Footloose. He was the actor from Footloose, and he's quite famous. He was in. Oh my God, I'm embarrassing myself in front of your audience, but um,
It's okay because I do the same thing. My brother,
it's
on the other hand, writes about movies. That's a different story.
okay. So anyway, this actor who is quite famous and whose name escapes me, but I will recall it on the telling of the story. Um, was his brother is a musician. So the two of them will go on the road together. And even though his
Okay.
fame completely eclipses his brother's, the two of them have this act. Oh, Kevin Bacon. Okay. So they're the
Oh,
fabulous
yes.
Bacon
Thank you.
brothers.
Yeah.
Now, they are not a giant musical act. Almost nobody goes to see them. You know, they'll play 300 seat rooms, 200 seat rooms.
Yeah.
But the people that have come out are ferocious fans. They know
Mhm.
every word of every song. And one of the songs is it's a little bit like that Johnny Cash, I've been everywhere, man. And then he starts
Yep.
name Albuquerque, blah, blah, blah. And this was like that. It had 1,000 lyrics. And at one stage, Kevin Bacon couldn't remember the words. And so he goes, damn it, I can't remember the damn words. And then this woman goes, I know the words. And he goes,
Uh-oh.
you do? So they start the song again, and he just shoves the microphone in her face. And she
Love it.
does it letter perfect. And then he pulls her up on stage for a big ovation. Now, what this does for me is it reminds me of the magic of live music.
I'm more
You know,
human, by the way.
what happened in that room, maybe it happens elsewhere, I don't know, but she was waiting there for, to say the lyrics, and he pulls her up afterwards to congratulate her. And there's something happening in that room that transcends the music. This is a gathering. This is a
Yeah.
get together. This is an event. And I thought, oh, you know what? I really should do smaller acts. I should really patronize smaller acts so that I can be part of this kind of experience, because I don't give a damn. If there's 30,000 people in that audience, I am not,
Yeah.
there just isn't the same vibe.
Yeah.
Um, but that kind of thing that happens spontaneously, and as you were describing, where she'll inevitably pick on someone in the audience and then pull them up on stage to sing. It's like, that's glorious. That's
I
a
love
real,
stuff.
oh, isn't that
And,
great?
and before we move on, I want to share one more story because I'm really in the story mood and you've got me there. So this is
Right on.
awesome. The biggest storytelling entertainment, like it or hate it, is the World Wrestling Entertainment.
Oh, yeah,
That's all about
sure.
storytelling. So
Yeah.
I will preface this by saying I am not a fan anymore. I was at one time. Okay. So I grew up in a
Yeah.
different era. But part of it is I don't like the storylines anymore, and that's another story. So,
Yeah.
but they are the biggest, and everybody knows it's not real. If people go out in 20,000, WrestleMania was last weekend in Vegas. They packed the place for 2 nights. Why? Because of the stories of the
Yeah.
villain
It's great
versus
drama.
the good guy and the
Yeah.
drama. And we all know it's fake. And by the way, folks, if you want to go see a wrestling match, do not sit in the first 20 rows. You want to be honestly, you want to be miles away because you see the missed punches, the this, the that. It's more obvious. I went years ago. I went to a cage match in Toronto with Andre the Giant and sat in the first rows. Also wonderful. No, not so wonderful. You
Yeah.
want to be 20 rows back where you don't see all the.
Well,
But
not
the
only
point
that,
is,
with a sweat.
it's a yeah, it's amazing drama. And why do people go? Because it's the adult male testosterone soap opera. That's why people go.
Yeah, it is. It is very much a soap opera, and they're excellent at it. And when you look back at the '80s, when it exploded, was
Yep.
because they had 5 or 6 guys that just blew up. They really knew how to work the room. So you had a Roddy Piper and a Ric Flair, and these guys were just so mouthy.
And the
And
late Hulk Hogan, no
right,
question.
right. And so what happened was this what the hell was his name? I mean, I can list all of these '80s guys: Ravishing Rick
Me
Rude
too.
and Jake
Me
the
too.
Snake Roberts. But they were actors. They were all actors. They were
Yes.
brilliant performers who could
Yes.
spontaneously riff. And generally, the best of them, of course, were the heels. The heels were
Yep.
so much better than the heroes. And when what is the Randy Macho Man Savage? He was the
Yep.
king
The
of
late Randy Macho Man
the,
Savage.
the
He's
late,
passed
yeah.
away.
Oh yeah, man. And so what they did was they grasped the fun of a great vendetta. And
Yes.
so what they would do is they would concoct a vendetta that would ultimately find its final act in WrestleMania. So
Yep.
I remember that Jake the Snake Roberts had this wife that would attend the matches, and then Ravishing Rick Rude, after vanquishing somebody, would come out into the audience, and then he would give the rude awakening to some woman, which was he would kiss them and then they would swoon into
Yeah.
fainting.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
he went up to Jake the Snake's wife, seemingly not knowing who she was, and then she's rebuffing his advances to the point when he slaps her.
Yep.
And
I remember
that's
that
when
story.
that's when Jake comes out of the tunnel and then, has his revenge, but then gets the crap beat out of him by 5 chairs from
Of course.
Ravishing Rick's entourage. Okay, so that to me was exactly the sort of brilliant soap opera. It's like, because you just knew, oh, this is not over. And that was the magic of it. It was just as you suggest, it lives and dies entirely by the quality of the story being told.
Yeah.
How
Yep.
how desperately does this guy want to smash this other guy's head in? And
Yep.
is it an earned, vendetta? And then the part that I find most interesting is the redemption arc. It's
Yes.
when somebody was a heel and they were a complete heel, but then in some kind of insane moment, they suddenly decide to turn good. And their sworn enemy is facing such odds that they can't bring themselves to be part of the mob that is beating on him. Instead, they come to his rescue. And you cannot believe the reaction of the audience.
Yeah.
There is this strange catharsis that happens when somebody bad turns good. It's
Yep.
you are at an old-timey camp revival meeting, brother. You are.
Yeah, you are.
People are coming to Jesus.
Yeah, and just as we move on, interesting off, John Cena, who just retired this year, do you know he has the notoriety of giving out the most children's wishes of anybody in the world?
Sure.
I mean, the kids flock to him
Yeah.
because of the story. And we're
Yeah.
talking kids with cancer of 7 years old and their last wishes. He's done more for that. So anybody who thinks wrestlers aren't good eggs, I go look
Well,
at John. But that's
he's a good soul, that guy. And not to diminish it at all, but he enjoys it.
yeah,
His life is so much more enriched by the
yeah.
fact that he does that. Do you really think he would jump on a plane and fly across the country?
He's done that.
And
He's done
frequently
that.
does. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it's because, he thinks, oh, I need to do this. No, no. He, this is a guy, lucky for us, that thrives off the vibe that he gets from being a good hombre.
He's a good person. Yeah. So we've talked a lot and shared a lot of stories, and you work with brands and companies doing storytelling. Um, I come to you, I'm running a brand, let's call it I'm gonna make it easy, a jewelry store. I have an independent jewelry store.
Yeah.
Where do you start with me when we start telling the story?
Okay, so we start with the idea that that diamonds especially are a relationship business, and you should never
Yes,
approach a transaction. You should never approach a transaction as though this is a one-off. No, this
I
is the
agree.
first of many, which means that you do not want to chisel or cheat anybody. You're not there to try to maximize your return. What you're trying to do is build a relationship. And the actions that you do, the way that you treat a customer is, I want to be your friend in the diamond business,
Yep.
because this is a business of chiselers. This is a business where thievery is common because people are operating on very low information.
Yep.
And so in both your advertising and the way you treat people, the story is, oh, what is the occasion? Tell me about her or him.
Yep.
Um, what would be the most memorable thing that we could do for you? And I'll give you an
Big.
example of the story, of the sort of story that one might tell, which is, okay, you are going to propose, young man, and you have come to me for your diamond, and we've given you a really good price on what's right for you and in your budget, and I wish you many years of love and affection ahead. However, between you and me and the fence post, she might not say yes. This happens. And you might be thinking, well, now what? I just want you to know, no questions asked, no restocking fee. You've got enough heartache right now for me to chisel you out of another $25. No, no, no. Just bring it back, brother. Just bring it back.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll even give you a discount on the next go around. I'll give you a
Yeah.
heartbreak discount, because Because and that's the one where we're really going to just want to let you know the pressure's off. You don't have to worry about what's going to happen if she doesn't say yes.
Yep.
That's the
Yep.
kind of story you tell when you give a crap about your customers, because you've lived through this. You understand. You have experience in a way that your customer doesn't. And
Yeah.
what's more, are you buying diamond earrings, or are you buying a diamond brooch? Are you buying a diamond for your mother? Or are you buying a diamond for yourself? Every one of these occasions needs a friend, needs somebody
Mm-hmm.
who really wants, especially women who buy themselves diamonds. I get it. I totally get it. And they want to reward themselves. They want to feel special. They want to they want to express their independence. A diamond broker, dealer, a diamond store is not there to sell you that diamond. They're there to celebrate that occasion.
You.
They're
Yeah.
there to right. They're to celebrate you, and especially if a woman is buying a diamond, and it's for the purpose of saying, "I'm independent. I don't need a man to give me a diamond." It's like, oh, well, okay then. Well, then let's really make this special. Like,
Yep.
this is not
Yep.
this is going to have a story then, Jane. This is going to have a story. Let's make sure that it's
Yep.
exactly what let's really go to town on this thing. It should
But
be go ahead, sorry.
that's okay. I think a lot of it is selling the experience more than selling the
Well,
item.
the experience can, yeah, if you don't give them an experience, then that's the brilliance of, have you ever read that Dan and Chip Heath wrote a book called
Yeah.
Moments or something like that? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah. 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 You're
And
right. You're
they
absolutely.
talk about that popsicle hotline at the Comedy and Magic Club Hotel. Have you
Yeah.
ever heard of that? Yeah. And the
Yes.
whole idea is, like, if you're down at the pool and you'd like a popsicle, you just go over to the red phone that has no dial on it, and you pick it up, and there's somebody on the other
The
side.
bat phone. The bat phone.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, why would you do that? Because, man, it's a story. Because it's a funky, funny thing that we do to so that people go home and talk about it.
Yeah.
There's a
So
popsicle hotline.
years ago, I paid $800 for a story at a sports show. And what the story was, the guest was Joe Montana, a Hall of
Oh,
Fame quarterback. And the story was, you got a picture with Joe, you got an autographed football, but the football he autographed was the one he threw you the 30-yard pass on.
oh,
So he threw you a
that's
pass.
good. That's
Yeah.
really good.
And do you know
Yeah.
that
You got
the
a pass from
sports
Joe
dealer
Montana.
that offered it, when they put that up, they were sold out in 3 hours. Gone.
Yeah, well, it's worth more than that now. I mean, I can't even believe what Joe Montana would charge now and get
But what a
three
story.
grand.
Like being
Oh
able to
yeah,
say, Joe threw me a ball.
yeah. So my friend Matt O'Mara was at this air show in, I don't know, Iowa or Wisconsin or something. Yeah, the Oshkosh Air Show. Do you know where that is? Is that in Wisconsin?
Yep.
Well,
It's
anyway,
in Wisconsin,
so he was at
I
this air
think.
show, and he was part of an events company. And then who
Yeah.
shows up but Harrison Ford was
Mm.
there, because Harrison Ford's a big flyer. Well, Matt was assigned to drive Harrison Ford around at the event. And
Yep.
at one point, Harrison was going off and he was doing a sort of meet and greet and so forth. And he says to Matt, listen, do me a favor. In 5 minutes, I want you to come over and tell me I'm really desperately needed at this other place. Now I'm going to fight you. I'm going to say, no, just give me 5 more minutes. And you have to say, no, 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 this is very urgent. I'm sorry. And then you turn to the
Yeah.
customers and you say, I'm sorry, he really must go. That way
Yeah.
I've got the excuse. And so Matt says to Harrison Ford, so we'd be acting together. And Harrison goes, yeah, technically. And Matt goes, good enough. Now, Matt is very funny. I mean, he is every bit, in my opinion, he's every bit the actor that Harrison Ford is. But you know what's so brilliant about it is that my guess is, Matt obviously tells the story quite a lot. My guess is that Harrison Ford probably tells that story too, because
Yep.
he's like, this guy said, so we'd be acting a scene together. And I'm like, if you'll do the part, then yeah. And it's just one of those funny moments where, when you think about all of life that we go through,
Yep.
every experience we have, there should be a story attached to it somewhere. And that Joe Montana thing of him throwing you that football, oh, worth every penny, because now you're saying like, this, Joe Montana threw a 30-yard pass to me. This is that ball. And you go,
Yeah,
oh,
that's right.
really? What was it
Yeah.
like? And by the way, what was it like? What was the pass like? Was it a bullet or was it like a what?
It was semi-hard. I told him not to take it easy.
Okay.
I've caught a few balls in my time, so it was
Yeah.
just nice. It was the experience. It was
You take
really,
any NFL quarterback, and if he throws it at you like a Brett Favre frozen rope,
yep,
it'll sting you.
yep,
It's
yep.
unreal. So that's
It was, it
fantastic.
was, it was such a pleasure. Um, in terms of companies, I would think the good Fortune 500s, the big companies, the ones that do it really well succeed, and the ones that don't tell the story well fail. Is that fair?
Well, yes, over time, over time.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, the a company like a Johnson and Johnson survives a Tylenol scare back in the 80s
Yeah, of
because
course they
of
do.
the way that they were able to tell that story. And Toyota survives its Camry recall for the same reasons, because the story they tell,
Which never should have happened because they buried that. Yep.
right,
Yep.
right.
No question.
But anyway, the over and over, the companies who have a leader who is actually a human being and who understands human beings, understands, like founders are frequently better at this
Yep.
than people who have inherited the mantle because they maximize and optimize shareholder return. Once you've aligned incentives at a corporation so that a CEO, it's in his interest to screw his customers. Cable companies are an example. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
telecoms. Once you've arranged the
Ah,
incentives, once you've arranged the incentives for the CEO to screw their customers, that's a company that will never tell a good story, because the people that do that, the people that lead companies like that, where the optimized performance is one in which it really is just financial. Though those people don't have an instinct for stories, that's not why they were hired. When you'll hear again and again this kind of rank and yank management system that a Jack Welch popularized, where the whole idea is to perpetually put the employees on pins and needles that they're about to get fired. This is somebody who is by nature a predator and not a teammate. If you were in an elevator with that person, you might as well kill them now, because eventually they're coming for you. And the companies that are really, really good at telling the stories have long traditions of understanding that they're in a relationship business, not in a kill or be killed mindset.
agreed.
Think about a really great restaurant, the number of nice things they do for you. If you're a repeat customer, you know, they remember your
Hmm.
birthdays and their free desserts now and again, or they just instinctively take better care of you by their attitude. They don't look at you as a transaction.
No.
And any business that has a sales arm that really requires the company to rely on repeat business, the salespeople turn out to be great storytellers,
Yeah.
or at least the ones that make the most of the
Succeed.
opportunity. Yeah.
Yep.
Car dealers are a really, really good example of a car dealer that knows that it's not one, that they don't intend to sell you one car. They intend to sell you 12 or 13 cars, and they intend to service all those cars. They take great care to make sure that the story they tell themselves about you is different from the
Yeah.
story that the rapacious one time only, I'll screw everybody in
Yeah.
the country once, that's how I'll get rich. Um,
Yeah.
it's the most important stories we tell are the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. This is the
Yeah.
type of people we are.
Yeah.
And you'll notice that in the executive suites of companies like that, the people that take over next, the people that rise to positions of authority in those companies are often brilliant storytellers because they're the ones that can get up in front of 3,000 franchisees and get them excited about the future. Or they'll stand up in front of their dealer groups and people will go, wow, that was really good, Rick. Holy crap. Did you know he was this good in front of a room? Yeah, I did know.
So true. In terms of clients you look after, what is it a mix? Like, is it medium to large businesses, or kind of where do
Yeah,
you sit?
all over the map. Um, I've had, I think the times when I've been most pleased with results were for big pharma, big
Yeah,
investment companies, and the reason is that the salespeople and the quantitative analysis people or the chemists, those people often have to make appearances together in
oh, yeah,
rooms of big
that
decision making.
old problem again. Yep.
And what we've had really good luck at, which is to help the quantitative people or the engineers or the chemists, get them really, really good at that first 60 seconds. So that what happens is the salespeople can't wait to introduce them. And what happens is as soon as these people start to speak, the room goes, "Oh, this is fantastic. The expert, the person who really knows the answers to stuff, he's all tuned up. He knows exactly what he's here to say." And it's really great when salespeople and engineers get together and they look like they like each other and they look like they work well with each other. All of a sudden, the stress level in the room goes way down because people go, "Oh, these two seem to trust one another." And
True.
what will frequently happen, especially, okay, so I want you to pretend that you are a Merrill Lynch or a Charles Schwab, investment counselor, and you're
Yeah.
handling very high net worth individuals. In fact, you're handling the ultra high net worth individuals that now it's not one person you're sitting across from, it's three because they're board of trustees on a trust.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, this is not their first rodeo. They speak to people all day about the trust and they require expertise they have to make sure that whatever you're promising them has a basis in reality and you're not some Ponzi cracker.
Yep.
So they've asked you to bring along the quant. So you go into the room and immediately upon them turning to the expert will usually say something like, well, not so much on what he's saying there. There's a yes, occasionally, but not and all of a sudden these people don't trust that salesperson at all because the quantitative analysis guy is sitting there disclaiming everything they just heard.
Yeah.
Right. That's the danger, is that these people are so devoted to the exactitudes and the details of what they've done that they can't make a promise for a new drug or for an investment program, or when the sales guy says, "We've had very good performance off this," the first thing out of the quant is, "But that is no guarantee of future success."
I agree.
I've seen this go wrong enough times where you can't make that promise. Okay, so what happens is, though, when you've coached up the team, when they are telling the same story, and when they say, it really is my great pleasure, you are in for a treat because I brought Barry with me today.
Yep.
Barry is their head, blah, blah, blah. He's not in charge. He's the guy they go to. He's the guy, the guy's in charge. That's the guy they go to answer the questions.
Yep.
So yeah, Barry's going to talk about a very interesting new derivative. So Barry, take it away. So what Barry will do is, because they've rehearsed, he'll say, "Okay, well, can I start with the fact that, thank you very much for that, by the way, Rob, but unfortunately, I get so excited about this topic that I often go way too deep into the weeds. So I would like to just say at the outset, you have my permission to interrupt me at any time to tell me to shut up, because I'm sorry, I just get carried away. So, okay, now with that, I'm going to go ahead and start. And then there will be a part of the meeting where now the sales guy goes, "Okay, Barry, I think we got it, right? We're good." And then Barry will go, "Okay, sorry." There you go. That's my thing. Now, what happens is the psychology has changed from he's disclaiming, he's providing the counterintuitive stuff, Instead, it looks like Rob wanted you to hear this musician who is fantastic, but a guitar solo can only go on for so long. So,
Yeah.
so you go, okay, we got it. Okay. And what it looks like isn't that Rob is intervening. He's not saying, shut up, Barry, because you've had enough. He's trying to protect Barry from himself. So
Yep.
it actually looks like a kind of gesture of affection. And
Mhm.
that's the kind of coaching that I've had the most fun doing, so that these people now enjoy being together in the meeting, and their
Yeah.
clients benefit because their relationship is not antagonistic. It's definitely, it's like when I was seeing that act where Gary Shandling and
Yeah.
George Wallace are up on stage. Holy mackerel, this is fun. Yeah, well, they
Yeah.
rehearsed the crap out of it, bro. That's why it's so good.
So
Now they
true.
don't know
So true.
that. They don't know that. They just know that the two of these guys get along. And
Yeah.
so there you go.
So true. Now, I know one last question. If I'm going to tell a story for a brand, do I do video, audio, both, pictures? What do I do?
So the answer to everything is everything. You do everything.
And
But
it depends. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But I would say that video has an uptake that other forms of media don't quite have. So for example, I'm always doing videos on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Um, Carousels are very popular,
Yep.
slide,
I know
reach
there's
the slide.
yeah.
But I'm not honestly persuaded by those. I'm persuaded by the feeling that I know somebody, or that I trust
Yeah.
them, or that I like them. And there is no better way to help people feel like they know you than video. So,
Yeah.
for example, um, people will sometimes recognize me, and they'll recognize me not because of the sound of my voice, but because they've seen a video on TikTok
Yeah.
or Instagram. And that sensation of feeling like you know somebody is it's interesting because you and I had a prep call. You and I got to know each other before
Yeah, of
today.
course we did. Yeah.
So when we hit the ground running, it's like we really hit the ground running. There's no introduction between the two of us. We know each other, and
Yeah.
we know the vibe. Well, it's the same way when you do video out there for your company. People
Mhm.
feel like they know you, and I don't mean specifically you, but if you're a company and you are telling a story, and there are characters in that story, that protagonist is somebody they feel like they know. And uh, if you go way back into the history of brands, there was a bank in California called Crocker Bank, and Crocker Bank was just one of the regular run-of-the-mill banks, like any other number of savings and loans and banks in California before you could do interstate banking. And they had this young gal named Sandy Duncan who came on, and she was a teller in the bank. And they had this very uh, funny Greek gentleman. It looked like he was in his 70s. And she is saying, "It's so nice to see you again, Mr. Papa, Popadopoulos. Mr. Popadopoulos," he says. "Mr. Popadopoulos." And she goes, "Do you mind if I call you Nick?" And
Ah,
that was the entire commercial. It just says, when you come to Crocker Bank, we'd like to feel like we're your friends, or some stuff like that.
yeah. Yeah.
It was so popular. Just that single commercial made people somehow believe that they were going to go into Crocker Bank and there was going to be Sandy Duncan,
Yeah. I get
which she
that.
wasn't. But there was a dramatic uptake of, an overnight sensation. Crocker Bank started to come on as California, a big bank in California. And they got acquired because they were one of those hot prospects.
So
It's
true.
just because of Sandy Duncan. But it was because they felt like they knew her.
Yeah.
Like they just were just enchanted by her sweetness.
It's so
Also,
true.
she was cute. She was not a great beauty, but she was cute. And it's that magical kismet and alchemy of she's not beautiful, but she's irresistible.
Hmm.
You know, this is something I believe all women should strive for. Not that I'm here to tell anybody what to do, but when you become, you're not, you're not known for your beauty, you just are irresistible.
Yeah.
That's a function of personality. And
Yeah.
you'll notice this, especially among men. It's like a woman will say, "Oh, I'm at my worst. I wasn't wearing any makeup," And then when the guy sees her for the first time without her makeup and he's going, "Oh yeah, but you are still a
Yep.
morsel." You
Yep.
know,
I say that to my partner every day. So there you
it's
go.
that moment when they see you without all of the tune up
Yeah.
and then they
Yep.
go, "Yeah, but you're still irresistible." That's when the sale gets closed.
Yep. So
Yeah.
the kind of the last question I wanted to throw at you, the last discussion is, should you, as a business owner, and this is treading lightly, throw some personal stuff into your storytelling, or should you keep it all business? What do you think?
Uh,
I
I mean,
had to go there.
I'm of mixed emotions on that.
I knew you were going. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because you know, once you've put stuff out in the universe and people know that about you, there's, you know, who knows where that goes.
Yep.
But on the other hand, um, if you're going to do it, if you're going to do personal stuff, just never make yourself the hero of your own story.
No,
Don't
make
don't
it
make it out.
somebody else.
Yeah, because you lose credibility as soon as you start bragging about yourself. And
Yeah. I don't think you do it in a bragging way. I think you do it in a sharing way. There's a difference, right?
yeah, it's it's a very uh, I tend to think that if you're a business owner, the story needs to be about the people that work for you or
Yep. Yep.
especially your customers that you value.
Yep.
Um, but you know, on LinkedIn is a marvelous place for companies to celebrate the achievements of their people.
Yep. No
And
question.
I think that they do it badly. They'll an example would be so they say, "Hey, I want to thank my team for having done this thing," and then they'll put a picture of themselves on there. It's like,
That's
oh my lord, bro, you were so token.
put a picture of your team on there.
And then they'll a sort of second level is yeah, they'll display the team, but there's 25 people in the photo, and then they'll list the names. And so you're
Yeah.
going, okay, it's the likelihood of them identifying you in the picture is close to zero. On
Yep.
the other hand, if you cut that number down, you know, and you celebrate a specific person one at a time, you know, nobody's saying you have to do 25 posts about each individual, but it does pay to call out people as individuals and celebrate them. And you know how it goes. Like there'll be a sport, like you played club rugby, so there's
Yeah, I
going to be
did.
a dinner. There's going to be a dinner at some point, and
Yeah.
it's really nice for you to call people out one at a time. You know how a CEO will stand up in front of a room of 300 or 3,000 people, and they'll go, "I want to thank each and every one of you." Oh, just fuck all the way off.
That's
That is the
marketing
most
speak.
empty gesture. That is such an empty gesture. That is like emailing somebody a thank you instead of writing them a thank you note and putting it in the mail.
Yep. I agree. I agree.
Demonstrate a little effort. So,
And empathy.
because what they don't realize is they have said that the story they think they're telling is, I told a story about congratulating my people.
Yeah.
But when they put their own picture there, the story they're really telling is, I'm a self-absorbed narcissist who will take any occasion
Yeah.
of riding on my people's achievements to make it all about me. That's the
Yeah.
story you're telling. You can't see it because you're too busy enchanted by your reflection in the mirror.
Yeah. So true.
And if you think people
Neil.
can't see it, they can.
Yeah. So true. Neil, what an amazing conversation. I don't know how to thank you. I think you and I could be telling stories all day. I
I know
think
we
there's
could. That's the problem. We've been on for an hour and a half.
and also I think there's a book or two in you, but that's another story out of all those. Make work project, make note.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to get a hold of you, follow your work, or talk about storytelling, how's the best way?
I'm easy to find at, um, if you just spell my name right,
Yeah.
Nealfoard, then
Yep.
you'll find me on simple Google search. My company is Storyfire, which is storyfire.net.
Yep.
They can find me if they, email me at neal@storyfire.net,
Yeah.
Neal. And, but generally, you know how bad people are about writing these things down. But if you did spell my name right, then you'll find me. And they can find me on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. And it's always because I spell my name that way. You don't have to put any numbers or hashtags or anything like that on it. It's just,
Yeah, it's a
you'll
different
find me.
spelling.
I'm everywhere. I'm on
Yeah.
Blue Sky. I'm on Substack. I'm on, everything except X, but I think I'll probably wind up going there. I'm not on Facebook though.
Yeah. But that's enough for people to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
I have to thank you for this amazing conversation. Appreciate you.
Thank you,
I
Rob.
suspect this isn't the last one, but
I hope not.
I hope not either. And you have a wonderful day, and the weekend's coming at time of this record, and have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Take care, Rob.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to our sponsor, All-in-One WP Migration by ServeMask. Export your entire WordPress site in one click, import it anywhere. No server access needed, no command line, works with every hosting provider. Free on WordPress.org, or extension at servemask.com. Thanks again to our sponsor, All-in-One WP Migration by ServeMask. Export your entire WordPress site in one click, import it anywhere. No server access needed, no command line, works with every hosting provider. Free on WordPress.org, or extension at servemask.com. A very special thank you to Neal for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.